Your mother kept them in the kitchen drawer. Loose strips, folded over, rubber banded together, stuffed between the scissors and the tape. After every trip to the grocery store, she would sit at the table, pull the stamps out of the bag, and start licking, one by one. Your tongue was green by the time she was done. If you were old enough, she put you to work. You sat across from her and licked and pasted, page after page in a small booklet with 24 pages and 50 points per page. The glue was supposed to taste like tapioca. It did not. But that green tongue was funny, and you kept going, because the faster you filled the book, the sooner you could go to the redemption center and get something for free, or what felt like free. If you remember licking those stamps, tell us in the comments what your family got with them, because nearly every household in America did this, and almost nobody talks about it anymore. Your mother had a system. She knew which supermarket gave stamps and which did not. She knew which gas station on the corner gave double stamps on Saturdays. She drove past the closer one to get to the one that gave green stamps, because those stamps were not a bonus, they were the plan. She had the catalog open on the kitchen counter, page 37, the electric knife, or the set of towels, or the clock radio for the bedroom. She had counted the books. She knew exactly how many more grocery trips it would take. And every Tuesday night after the shopping was done, and the bags were unpacked, and the milk was in the fridge, she sat down at that table and went to work. The children helped. That was your job. You sat across from her and she handed you a strip, and you licked and pasted. Your tongue turned green. Your fingers got sticky. The glue had a taste you never forgot, even though you have not thought about it in 40 years. Some mothers used a damp sponge. Most did not. Most licked. And the books piled up in the kitchen drawer, one on top of the other, slowly, week by week, until there were enough. For a generation of women who did not work outside the home, those stamps were their own currency. Their husbands earned the paycheck, but the stamps belonged to the wives. Every filled book was money she had earned by doing the shopping, by choosing the right store, by driving the extra mile. The Redemption Center was the only store she could walk into and get something without asking anyone for a dime. One woman wrote that they had no money for anything but rent and groceries, and those stamps were precious to us. The stamps had been around longer than most people realized. Thomas Sperry and Shelley Byron Hutchinson started handing them to merchants in 1896. The idea was simple. Stores bought the stamps, gave them to customers. Customers pasted them in booklets and traded them for merchandise at a redemption center. It caught on slowly through the East and Midwest, faded during the wars, and then exploded after the soldiers came home in 1945. The generation doing most of the shopping had grown up during the Depression. They understood saving. They understood stretching every dollar until it screamed. When the supermarkets and gas stations started handing out stamps again, this generation didn't just accept them, they organized their lives around them. By the early 1960s, 80% of American households collected them. S&H was printing 3 times more stamps than the U.S. Postal Service. The catalog they mailed out, 35 million copies a year, was the largest single publication in America. Not Time magazine, not the Sears catalog, the S&H Idea Book. One woman saved enough books to surprise her husband with a recliner. She had a couple left over and let her son get a Beatles album. Another got all the baby equipment for her first child. Another got a pair of sewing scissors, a canister set, a toaster, kitchen knives, and a bicycle for her daughter. All from stamps, all from licking and pasting at the kitchen table after the groceries were put away. The gas stations were the battleground. In the 1950s and the 1960s, when an attendant still pumped your gas, checked your oil, and cleaned your windshield, the station owner needed something extra to pull you in from the competition. Stamps were that something. 2 stations at the same intersection, one with a banner that said, "We give green stamps," and the other with "We give blue chip stamps." Mothers chose their gas station the way they chose their supermarket, not by price, but by stamps. Some stations offered double stamps. Some offered triple. Blue chip stamps was the biggest competitor, especially out west. In California, a coalition of grocery chains formed the Blue Chip Cooperative in 1960 specifically to shut S&H out of the market. There were others everywhere. Plaid stamps from A&P, Top Value from Kroger, Gold Bond, started by a 23-year-old in Minneapolis named Kurt Carlson, who borrowed $50 in 1938 and turned it into a company worth billions. Every region had its own. But green stamps were the standard, the one everyone recognized. Warren Buffett saw the business for what it was. In 1970, he started buying shares in blue chip stamps. Stores paid cash up front for stamps. Customers redeemed them months later. In between, the stamp company sat on a mountain of money. Buffett used that money to buy See's Candy. That purchase became one of the foundations of Berkshire Hathaway. When asked why he invested, Buffett said that when he was told that even certain brothels and mortuaries gave stamps to their patrons, he felt he had finally found a sure thing. Trading stamps were so deep in American life that the Brady Bunch built an episode around them. Season 1 in January of 1970, the Brady kids find 94 books of checker trading stamps and fight over what to get. The boys want a rowboat. The girls want a sewing machine. They build a house of cards to settle it. The girls win and buy a color television for the whole family. In 1966, school children in Erie, Pennsylvania collected 5.4 million stamps and bought 2 gorillas for the local zoo. Churches bought school buses with stamps. Communities bought ambulances. A man walked into the Redemption Center in Union City, New Jersey, and saw a street legal car on the showroom floor. The King Midget. You could buy an automobile with stamps. The Redemption Center itself was an event. You did not go alone. You went with the family. Your mother had the books counted, the catalog studied, the item picked. But once you were inside, you wandered. The shelves were stacked with everything. Lamps and mixers and luggage and sporting goods and dolls and clock radios and china sets. It looked like a department store, except the price tags were not in dollars. They were in books. 3.5 books for a toaster, 7 books for a set of stainless steel flatware, 22 books for a recliner. The woman behind the counter wore a smock. You handed over your books. She counted them. She disappeared into the back and came out with a box. You walked to the car carrying something your family had earned, one lick at a time over 6 months of Tuesday grocery runs. It felt like Christmas. It felt like winning something. It felt like the system had, for once, given something back. Then it stopped. The first blow came from the discount stores. Target and Kmart opened in the same year, 1962, and their promise was the opposite of stamps. No gimmicks, no saving, no licking, just lower prices right now. For a younger generation of shoppers who didn't have Depression-era instincts about saving every small thing, that was more appealing. The second blow came from the supermarkets themselves. Some chains realized they could drop stamps, cut prices, and attract more customers than stamps ever had. Safeway's president had always hated stamps. He had nearly gone bankrupt in Denver because his competitors gave them, and he didn't. When the tide turned, he was the first to pull them. The third blow was fatal. In 1973, the oil embargo hit. Gas stations had lines stretching for blocks. When customers are begging for gasoline, you don't need stamps to get them through the door. Overnight, stations across the country dropped their stamp programs. Along with free maps and windshield washing and the attendant who checked your tires, stamps disappeared from the pump. S&H lost a quarter of its entire business within months. The spiral was fast after that. Inflation made the premiums worth less. You needed more books for the same toaster. Fewer stores gave stamps. Fewer people saved them. The kitchen drawer got emptier. The books sat half-filled. the redemption centers started closing. By the 1980s, it was mostly over. The last grocery store to give out green stamps was a Piggly Wiggly in Tennessee. That was 2003. S&H tried to come back online with something called Green Points. It lasted until October 4th, 2020, when the company announced that all remaining stamps and points had no value. 124 years. Over. But here is what the dates don't tell you. Every loyalty program you use today is a descendant of those stamps. Every airline mile, every credit card point, every Starbucks star and grocery store card. Sperry and Hutchinson invented the concept in 1896 in a shoe shop in Michigan. The entire modern rewards economy grew out of a green stamp the size of a postage stamp that tasted like bad tapioca. Those stamps were small and green and practically worthless on their own, but your mother understood something about them that the economists never put in their reports. Every lick was a deposit. Every book was a paycheck. Every trip to the redemption center was proof that patience and routine and showing up at the same store week after week could add up to something real. A toaster, a set of knives, a bicycle for your daughter, a recliner for your husband, a gorilla for the zoo. 80% of American households collected them. 3 times more than the U.S. Postal Service printed. 35 million catalogs a year. And on a Tuesday night in 1964, in a kitchen that smelled like groceries and glue, a woman sat at a table with her children and licked and pasted and filled another page and turned it and started the next one. The book was almost full. She had been saving for months, and the thing she was saving for was already circled in the catalog with a pen. If you were the kid at that table, you know exactly what this tasted like. If your mother saved green stamps, or blue chip, or plaid, or gold bond, or whichever stamps were in your town, tell us in the comments. What did she save for? What did you finally get? Because 80% of America did this, and the kitchen tables where it happened are mostly empty now. The drawers are cleaned out, the books are gone, but the taste of that glue is still right there. The second someone says the words green stamps, and your tongue remembers before your brain does.